What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic and excellent spirits on another live stream Wednesday, high noon here on the East Coast. It is already the 2nd of July, the second half of 2025. Time just keeps on ticking, keeps on zooming. 2 days before Independence Day, the 249th birthday of this country, and next year 250. Where the All-Star game will be in Philadelphia. And if you recall, back in 1976, as well as 1996, the All-Star game was in Philadelphia for the Midsummer Classic. So next year will be the same deal. So you're going to have the 200th anniversary, the 220th, and then the 250th. But again, that's for next year. Just thought to bring that up now. I don't know why. Just some random nonsense. But anyway, let's get right to it, people. Another live stream on deck. Absolutely excited to put forth this one because I got a lot to say, even with the sports world kind of quieting down a little bit with the NBA and NHL finals, obviously long in our rearview mirror. Both drafts, of course, same result. And then on top of that, you have the free agency, which is going on right now. And yes, I'll get to that comment in a second. We will talk about that too, because that's one thing that I've been just sick over. And not because of Bobby Bonilla Day. I'll bring that up right now. What the hell? My guy, James D. Yeah, he gets paid again. So I'll leave that comment hanging there in the balance for another moment. And what I want to do is just get to take care of some housekeeping. For those who are watching the replay and not live, please leave a comment. I'll be more than happy to follow up. So whatever it is that you have listened throughout the course of this live stream, if you agree, disagree, you want to banter back and forth even long after this is in the rearview mirror, of course, you could do so, and I'll be more than happy to follow up. My guy, Bio Zio in the house. I'll make sure to, yes, soon to be Ohtani Day. Yeah, we'll talk about that as well, as I'll post your comments in a second. And, of course, the other thing is it's already on and popping here in the chat room. People, of course, leaving quotes. James, I'm leaving that up there for another second because I want to talk about Bobby Bonilla Day. And, Bio, I'll get to your comments as well. But for those who hop on board and will continue to do so, please, leave something in the chat room. We'll go back and forth on that. As right from the start, we'll get to Bobby Bonilla gets paid again. And it's funny because it ties into what Bio said. And let me just throw that in there with Bio. Greetings, my guy out in the West Coast. And thanks for the recommendation the other day. And even though I already had it in the can and posted when we talked about the Steelers, and I'll get to them later on, as far as the big trade with Jalen Ramsey and how I had a commentary on that. If you haven't watched that, please check it out. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll put a link to it once I talk about how I feel about the trade. And not only that, but also some of the people that have gone against it. Steeler fans. And not that I know every Steeler fan, of course, on the planet, but some of the different message boards and things of that nature where they're saying, oh, what are they doing? It's an old folks home over there in Pittsburgh. What? I understand these guys aren't right out of the draft or 2 or 3 years in the league, but I'll get to that later on. So you definitely don't want to miss what I have to say about that. So to my guy, Bio, thanks again. Much appreciated. Yes, Bobby Bonilla Day, which was yesterday, and soon to be Ohtani Day. And that's where I'm going to tie these two comments in. Bio, your Ohtani, and then Bobby Bonilla getting paid again. Right now, it's overrated because all these contracts that have become deferred, and by any means, Bio, I'm not picking on the Dodgers. Obviously, they are within the realm and within the playbook of the salary cap, or really there's not a salary cap, the way it's structured as far as what they could do and not pay so much over the luxury tax. And we know that the Dodger payroll is through the roof, but we know the Ohtani contract, when he signed it, it was 10 years, $700 million, but 680 of that deferred so he could free up money so the Dodger brass could go out and get other players. And nobody's talking about that, where Ohtani's going to be paid till the end of time. And I understand he's currently playing and he's currently getting paid, where Bonilla, his career has been long gone and long out of our consciousness, to the point where here it is, another year goes by, and I believe he's going to get paid $1 million or $1.1 million from now until the year 2035. But I want to put that to rest. And yes, it could be the butt of all baseball fans' jokes, and also the Yankee fan who wants to tweak the Met fan like yours truly. And honestly, I could care less. I put up a post last year on the channel where I came out and said that if by Bonilla Day, now that it is come and gone on July 1st, but then we also got to talk about the other contracts that the Dodgers, in particular Ohtani, and I would think even Yamamoto and maybe a couple others that have had deferred contracts. I don't want to hear it. So, yes, we get it. Bonilla's putting his feet up, waiting for that $1.1 million check to be deposited in his account every July 1st. And, yeah, we could joke about that and talk about it, whatever, but I'm tired of it. It's an old running joke that when 2035 comes, and hopefully we're all around to witness that day, and maybe even better, 2036, because then it'll be a year after. So we won't even have to see any talk about by Bonilla Day. But anyway, I digress. I know I just went over the deep end with that. And yes, Kershaw going for 3,000 Ks tonight. We know he's a lock Hall of Famer. And even though he has, over the last few years, obviously he's not going to be the same guy that he was dating back 8, 10, 12 years ago, especially when it comes to the regular season. But yes, going for 3,000 tonight. And I believe they're playing the White Sox. So I'm sure he'll get that probably in the first couple of innings. No knock on the White Sox, but obviously they're not one of the better teams in the sport. 3 more to go. So, yeah, he'd probably get that in the first inning if he could. If this was vintage Kershaw, you know it would probably be an immaculate inning, if not a very tidy 12, 13-pitch inning where he gets his 3 Ks and obviously into the stratosphere of 3,000 strikeouts. So now let me get to what I got cooking here on this July 2nd. And I want to give a quick shout-out to my cousin, my blood, who once upon a time we were radio partners on the old Blog Talk Radio, which is now defunct, where we had a top flight sports radio program from 2008 to 2013. And that time period where every Wednesday night from 8 to 10, live show, 2 hours, calling in back and forth. So JD, who just like yours truly turns 56, so that would be Mark Burley, that would be Hollywood Henderson, Darryl Talley, and, of course, the greatest number 56 of all, Lawrence Taylor. And he's a Cowboy fan, so I'm sure he's not going to like that. But happy birthday to him, wherever he may be. And I just want to shout him out. So now let's get to it. And this is going to bring a big smile to my face. Not that this matters here in the early part of July. It would bring a broader smile if it's mid to late October, preferably mid, but late October, as we witnessed last year. But the Yankees are stumbling in the AL East. And to think, the Toronto Blue Jays, who they are facing over these 4 days, obviously Monday, Tuesday, they play today, and tomorrow to wrap up a 4-game series. Now, would I be shocked if the Blue Jays break out the brooms and sweep them? Well, when you look at the pitching matchups, they actually favor the Blue Jays. Tonight you have Jose Barrios, who the Yankees have fared pretty well against him, but Will Warren is your starting pitcher. So that does not bode well for the Yankees going into the game tonight. And then tomorrow, when they wrap up the series up in the Sky Dome, or it's the Rogers Center, whatever the stadium is called now, the Yankees will not have Max Fried, who got bombed yesterday, as you saw, or they will not have their other 1A, I'm not even calling him an ace, Carlos Rodon, who's going to pitch this weekend, and we'll talk about what's going to happen this weekend as far as what the Yankees are concerned. But the other pitching matchup that you're going to have for Yankees Blue Jays tomorrow is none other than Clark Schmidt, who in his last appearance got bombed, against Chris Bassett, the former Met, who, he's a good pitcher. I don't want to kill him on any front. But you'd have to think that the Yankees, who had started this week off with a 3-game lead over the Blue Jays, and actually had a 1-game lead over the Rays, where the Rays have actually lost to the Athletics here, and there are a game and a half back where sandwiched in between of the Blue Jays. Could the Yankees be out of first place by the time you get to Friday and the 4th of July, and with the fireworks going off later on that evening, could the fireworks go off a little bit earlier to where maybe Aaron Boone can flip a table? Maybe he will call out one of his players for some terrible base running. Will he do something with the lineup? Obviously, he can't do much with the rotation, but this Yankee team, who I thought going away, and I think their high point was in the middle of May, when I believe they were 7 games ahead of whomever was in second place at the time. And it could have been the Red Sox at that point. But for this team to play in a division where I understand The Blue Jays have played a lot better. The Rays have really played over their heads. And it's a scenario where the Yankees, granted, every team has injuries. Every team is going to have their struggles. We understand that, but not to the point where here they are, literally the Blue Jays breathing down their necks to the point where they could lose first place by the time we get to tomorrow night around 11 p.m., which would be good in my eyes and my regards because we're going to get to the weekend in a moment. But what gives? I'm actually more shocked that the Yankees have played, I'm not going to say as poorly as the Mets, but considering that they've been wildly inconsistent here. And if Aaron Judge isn't hitting, it seems like the rest of the team falls flat. Now, I understand Jazz Chisholm has hit some home runs, and I understand that Cody Bellinger, I'm thinking of his dad for a second. His dad isn't Chase. But it's Clay Bellinger. But for Cody Bellinger, who hit a home run there yesterday, they haven't really had a lot of contributions. And I know the one person that has really faced the brunt of a lot of abuse here recently is Anthony Volpe, because a lot of people thought that this guy was going to be the second coming of Derek Jeter. And right now, Yankee fans are seeing that that is far from the case. And I don't want to get on Volpe because he's a guy that's still a young player. What is he, 23 years of age? So it's not as if you're going to expect this guy to all of a sudden play close to all-star caliber, or dare I even say a Hall of Fame type shortstop, the way Derek Jeter once patrolled the left side of the infield. And I'm sorry, everything can't be just all on Volpe's plate, despite the fact that he is the homegrown guy, other than Judge, that a lot of people are going to look at as the future face of this organization, because even though Aaron Judge still has, 6 more years left on his deal, and although he's been otherworldly for a guy that, as he gets older with his body frame, and I'm sure that he's probably going to keep himself as fit as he possibly can be, but you would think that this team will transition more to it being Volpe's team by the time you get toward the end of that contract, where Volpe will be in his mid to late 20s, where right now, what is Judge? 33 years of age, so he has 10 years on him. So you would think that at some point, Volpe will flick the switch, will turn the corner, but right now it's not cutting it for him. And even though Trent Grisham is giving you a contribution with the home runs as well, but this Yankee team is not a team that's going to give you great at-bats. It's not going to get a situation where they're going to pass the baton. Yeah, pass the baton is to get the guy, hopefully, to get the 3-run homer. And that is it. And their pitching, although it's been good, and their bullpen has sprung a few leaks, but this has been a recipe where this team has just been underachieving. And you have to really look around if you're a Yankee fan to think that when is this going to turn? You understand the ebbs and flows. It's a long season, the marathon, etc. But right now, if you're a Yankee fan, you cannot be happy with the way this team has been playing. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I understand the Yankee fan who's listening, they may say, well, Jay Reels, what about your Mets? Ha, ha, ha. Don't worry, I'll get to them. And if you didn't listen to the podcast on Monday, I started off with them and gave them a diatribe for about 12 minutes about how disgusted I am. So, trust me, before you start getting on your high horse and be like, oh, here goes Jay Reels, going to pound the Yankees. Well, I got plenty of flesh to pound when it comes to the Mets, too. So I don't want to hear it, because everybody knows I am fair, transparent, and believe you me, until they make the last out in October, that's when I can really rejoice. Right now, do I like what I see with how the Yankees have been playing? Of course. But I keep it low brow. And even here, I'm just stating the facts. I'm not saying, ha, they deserve it. They're this, they're that. No. You ain't going to get that from yours truly. I know better. I've learned my lessons many years ago when it comes to getting into any type of trash talking or trolling or anything like that. No, I'm just strictly speaking facts here. So for this Yankee team, now I'll get to the comments in a second, for them to play in the division that you can either say it's come back to the Yankees to where they've fallen so far, where the teams have just been able to gain ground, or is it a situation where the Yankees just aren't that good? I think it's more the former than the latter. And that's not to say that the Yankees are supposed to be this 98 to 100 win team. No, definitely not. But they should be much better than what their record indicates. They've lost some just bad games here along the way. I mean, you lost 5 out of 6 of the Red Sox here just this past month. And that can't happen. All right, you lose a series of the Red Sox at Fenway. All right, fine. You lost 2 out of 3. But then Did they win 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox at the stadium? They did not. And in fact, if you recall, they won that opening game. They had a 7-0 lead where they bombed Walker Buehler. And then I believe they won, what was the final score? It was 8-2, whatever it was. And then the next 2 nights, they proceeded to give up 11 runs and 10 runs on Fox and ESPN in a nationally televised broadcast. And since then, it seems like they've just fallen flat on their face. See, I can't beat anybody. All right, yeah, they may beat the Athletics 2 out of 3, but they get shut out in one of those games. It's the Athletics. This isn't the 88-90 Athletics that won a World Series and had the Bruce brothers and Dave Stewart winning 20 games and Dennis Eckersley coming out of the bullpen. Not the case. So you have to be a little despondent, Yankee fans. Now, I understand. We're only in the early part of July, and I'm sure they're going to get reinforcements as you get toward the end of the month with the trade deadline. But listen, I don't like what I see, and I'm actually shocked because who would have thought that the Blue Jays would all of a sudden be nipping at the Yankees' heels? And the Rays don't even have a home. And here they are, and they play a ton of home games, as you know, and they're going to have a plethora of road games because of the way the schedule is imbalanced because of the weather. And you know, right now it is hurricane and rainy season down in Florida, and it is 1,000 degrees. So they had to front load a lot of those home games in April, May, and early June to where now, as we're into July, a lot of the remaining games are going to be on the road. And in fact, off the top of my head, not from this point on, but I believe they played 47 of their first 63 at home, which means they're playing just a ton of games on the road here. So I don't know if their record and if their play is going to continue to be at this current clip for them to be a part of even winning a division, let alone making the wild card. But right now, it looks like they could be a wild card team, even if they do not capture the AL East crown. So that's what happened with the Yankees. I mean, I don't even know what more else to say. I mean, Judge, obviously, he's now at 358, which is still at an MVP clip, but nobody thought he was going to hit anywhere close to 400 or 380 or anything like that. And I thought by the time he gets to season's end, he'd be somewhere between 330 and 350. And here he is. I think he's at 358 right now. So it can't be all on him, despite his 30 home runs and his just offensive prowess this year. And not to say that other guys haven't contributed, but they haven't contributed in timely fashion. And they haven't been able to come up with big hits. And yes, they can hit all the solo home runs and guys can pad stats and all that, but they're just a terrible base running team. They're not a good situational hitting team. And they just sit around and wait for the 3-run homer. I mean, what more can I tell you? So let's see what we got in the comments here. James D. Happy birthday. Oh, I appreciate that, James. I get to my cousin out there. And let's see, Mets and Yanks need some. Yeah, they probably have Pete too soon, especially the Mets. My guy D-Rells, Yankees. Yeah. And the funny thing is, even with the Yankees now, granted that they didn't have Giancarlo, and he hasn't really done much either. I mean, has he even hit a home run yet? Let's see if I can pull up his numbers real quick. Now, I know he got up to a pretty decent start, but now he's batting, 244 from the last time I checked? But for Giancarlo, yes, it's not as if he's come back and lit the world on fire despite having, almost 3 months off. So for him, let's pull up his numbers. Have a little fun here. And I like Giancarlo, always have. He is currently no homers, 4 RBIs, 244. 10 hits and 41 at-bats. Listen, it's a small sample size. I'm sure he'll get on track. And he's a guy that is a streaky hitter. He'll go 3 weeks where he'll hit 8 home runs, and then he'll go 3 weeks where he'll strike out 1,000 times. So that's what you get with Giancarlo. But as far as the Mets, should I just even go to that? Yeah, have the same record. No, they do, D-Rells. 100%. Now, here we go. So for those out there, the Yankee fans say, all right, Jerry, shut up about the Yanks. Yes, the Mets come bumbling into July. And if you didn't listen to the podcast on Monday, shame on you. What have you been doing? No, I'm kidding. Of course, here on YouTube, I have the video of each and every one of my podcasts dating back to well over a year. Of course, on Apple, Spotify, you can subscribe there. Please leave a message. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, spread the word to those out there who would love sports content and true sports content, because I have some people that I want to get after here, and you're going to see that in the coming days with some critique videos. And it's not as if I'm trying to troll, because you know me, that's not what I do. But I don't like the clickbait variety when it comes to content. And I've seen a lot of that recently, and I don't like it. Because with me, and even with my recent commentary that I posted a couple days ago on the Steelers, where my headline was, "Who the hell do the Steelers think they are?" And yes, but I had some backbone to it. I just didn't put that title up to try to get people drawn in. And then here I am just ho-humming or hemming and hawing about, oh, well, the Steelers, blah, blah, blah. No, you saw fire, you saw passion. And I'm like, yeah, who is the Steeler team? Which I'll get to a little bit later on. But anyway, I digress. My apologies. As far as the Mets go, they didn't play last night because of the weather. They're playing a doubleheader, which in fact, the first game will take place in about 50 minutes. And this Met team, who now come bumbling into July, losers of 13 of the last 16, swept in Pittsburgh to the lowly Pirates, outscored 30-4 in that series. After the game on Saturday, which they lost 9-2, and I understand that 6 of those runs came in the 8th inning, but there was a players-only meeting. And as I joked on Monday's podcast, I came out and said that they probably had this meeting after the game Saturday to say, guys, let's just not show up to the ballpark on Sunday. Let's just go back home. We have a day off on Monday before the Brewers come to town. And the Brewers are fighting in the NL Central with the Cubs and even the Cardinals for that matter. So let's just take 2 days off. In essence, Sunday, the final game, to see if they could salvage that series, and Monday's scheduled day off to go into the game on Tuesday night, regrouped, refreshed, raring to go. So what happens? They lose 12-1 on Sunday. They had an off day there Monday. In essence, they had an off day yesterday, and now let's see what's going to happen in this doubleheader, including a nightcap where they're going to face that kid, Jacob Misiorowski, the guy who started his pitching career with 2 starts, 11 innings, where he gave up no hits. And in fact, in his second start was perfect in the first 6 innings. 6 innings. Let me enunciate a little bit better. So for the Mets, they're going to see this phenom that is first onto the scene. And who knows, if the Mets bats go silent in this opener where Paul Blackburn's going to pitch, keep your fingers crossed. And for a Met team that right now is literally gasping for air. Now, in the grand scheme of things, because the Phillies are ahead of them in the division, and they got washed out yesterday, and they're playing a double dip also, so let's root for the Padres big time today, people. Can this Met team get out of their own way? Can they start at 110 today? Can they put up a 4 spot in the first inning and maybe give Paul Blackburn a little breathing room? And could Blackburn go into the 6th inning, maybe just giving up 3 runs, 5 hits, which I would accept right this very second? So all I got to say is, can they do that? Because tonight, I'm not trying to make this Jacob Misiorowski to be Fernando Valenzuela or Mark Fidrich. Look him up. So, but with the way things are going, and granted that the calendar is now moved to July, so maybe whatever stench around that Met team in June has left behind, maybe can we carry Juan Soto's bat into July? Because I'm sure he's looking at today as June 32nd. Because he had a torrid month and a month that a lot of people, especially around Metville, were hoping for. So maybe his bat could carry into July and continue his offensive prowess. So now, what's going to give? Can the Mets snap out of it? Can the Mets look at just today, knowing that they have a doubleheader, to just get the first one and hopefully tonight get 2, and then tomorrow get that one before heading into a weekend? And I'm sure you know who they're going to play this weekend, which I'll get to in a second. But they have just been a disaster. I don't know what else to say. This team that 2 weeks ago, as I pull this up here real quick, were 45-24, 21 games over 500, and actually had a lead in the division. Now, granted, they've been playing hot potato with the Phillies. Mets were in first place at the middle of May. Then the Phillies, I believe they had as big as a 4.5 game lead, and then the Mets took that back. So Phillies said, we don't want it. And the Mets were in first place, said, no, now it's your turn. So now the Phillies have a slight lead in the division. I'm sure they're going to, here you go, Mets. It's all yours now. I tell you, it has just been brutal, and hopefully they get to turn it around. And you want to talk about injuries. We know that the rotation for the Mets has just been a mash unit. Tyler McGill, Kodai Senga, Griffin Canning. Now add him to the list of Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, and Damian Lillard. I'll get to him also later on with these Achilles injuries. So what are you going to blame it on? You're going to blame it on those shoes? I mean, I don't know. Or the cleats in this case? Yeah, it's just a mess. I don't know what more else I could say about this team. I don't. I mean, it's just been a flat-out disaster. And can we not see Jeff McNeil in center field anymore? No offense. He's not an outfielder, and I get it that they're trying to plug him in there. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen enough. I have no words. Let's get to the comments. I don't, because I'm just getting more and more frustrated. All right, what do we got here? James, Stearns better start showing Met fans something because his moves have been terrible. Well, yeah, he's going to have to do something this month, especially with that rotation and bullpen, because you and I should be a part of that bullpen at this point. I mean, Dickie Lovelady, seriously? They bring him up for one outing, he gets bombed, then they DFA'd him, and then only bring him back. I mean, it's just, and that guy, I call him Dirk Diggler because he has the porn star name. And no shade on Dickie Lovelady. And there's a guy who was Rich Lovelady, or Richie Lovelady, was, I would be called Dickie. All right. I mean, there's a guy that's literally going to be around for a cup of coffee in the Met team, and luckily he got his second go around. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, he's going to have to do something, and I don't know. I hope he doesn't do anything too drastic. The Sandy Alcantara, although he's pitched a little bit better recently, but I'm not giving up the farm, the Ronnie Mauricios, or the Luis Acuna Jr.'s, or the Brandon Sproats of the world. To me, those guys are untouchable. I'm sorry. They should not be a part of any trade whatsoever. Unless you're getting back a big-time stud. So that is the only way, shape, or form that I'm giving up any one of those three players, and I'm saying this right now. So, and I don't care. Even if the Mariners want to give up George Kirby, nope, I'm not giving up those guys. Kirby, I get it. He's come off the IL. He pitched better in his last start, but I think he's 2-4. He hasn't been great, but I'm just using him as an example. So, yeah, and I don't want any guys that are kind of long in the tooth, even a guy like Luis Castillo. No. If you're going to give up big-time talent, I want a big-time starter back. That's it. Case closed. So that goes with that. And yes, Bio, I know. That is kind of cool. I like it. I know the Met one is a day-night doubleheader. I don't know about the others. Let me pull that up real quick. The Phillies, that is that's a pseudo day night. It's 1:05 and then 6:15. And I think San Diego's a day off tomorrow, so it's not as if I'm sure they got a home series upcoming. Yeah, they'll host Texas over the weekend, so they have a day off. They should have played that game at 7 o'clock. I can see they had a game tomorrow where if it was a game tomorrow, that game would have been at 4:15 or whatever it is. And then you have Detroit at Washington. Another pseudo day night. And what's the last one? As I pull that up, is that St. Louis, Pittsburgh? Look at the last one now. Trying to figure it out. Oh, Cincinnati, Boston. Yeah, it's suspended, I believe. So let's see. I like the 4 doubleheaders too. I agree with you there, Bio, on that. Now, let me get to the next comment here. Everyday Mets, my guy. Mets are screwed. Brewers hottest team in baseball. Listen, the Brewers have played well, and they have been scuffling a little bit, but I got to give it up. That's a team. No Devin Williams. They're a scrappy team when you think about it, but for whatever it is, they have been fairly well. And right now, they were 2.5 games back, and they're currently Cardinals have fallen back a little bit. Actually, I thought the Cardinals were a little bit closer than that. Well, I thought they were tied or at least a half game behind the Brewers. Yeah, the Athletics lead 1-0. So for the Yankee fan out there, I'm sure they're excited. They don't want to see Tampa win. But here it is, a scenario where Brewers playing well and the Mets floundering. And yeah, that's a good one, James D. I'll get to that in a second. I don't know if the Brewers, especially with the pitching matchup here, and who's pitching against Blackburn in his first start? I should know that off the top of my head. That's what happens when you got 1,000 things going on. at the same time. Oh, Freddie Peralta. He's a good starter. So that's not going to be easy. Him and Mizorowski are your double dip starters for the Brewers. Now, Blackburn, a.k.a. Heartburn. Listen, I don't know what else to say about Blackburn. I mean, not much. I'll just leave it at that. Clay Holmes, not Blackburn. Listen, Clay Holmes, I know he walks the ballpark at times because we all know he's relying on that slider too much, and they nibble. They do, but if you lay off of that, that's going to be a thing where, he's going to walk the ballpark, and that's where you're going to give up runs. So, and Holmes, I think, is pitching tomorrow. He's not going to pitch in the upcoming series, which I'll get to. Yeah, no McNeil said, thank you, D-Rels. I feel you. You want Green for the Reds? What about, it was brought up a few weeks back, and I think you may have been in the room at that time. Yeah, Bio, yeah, that is a suspended game. Continue to the third inning, absolutely. Now, to get Hunter Green, now that's where you have to give up Brandon Sproat. I mean, that's all there is to it. You're going to have to give up Sproat. You're going to have to give up Mauricio and or Acuna because he's a young pitcher and he's making no money unless he probably got one of those mild extensions. And I know that the Reds ownership is, they're a bunch of frugal leadership there. Yeah, I would take him. But again, you're going to have to give up a lot. And Sproat would be definitely number one in that deal. But you know what? That's not bad. But I don't know if the Reds would do that considering that they are relatively competitive in their division. What are they now? If the Cardinals are 4 back, I know they were 5 on Monday. And because of the suspended game, they haven't made up enough ground. Yeah, they're 6 back right now. 6 in the loss? Yeah, 44 and 41. So, yeah, I don't think they would be willing to part with him. If they were 12 games out or somewhere along those lines, then I would say, hey, maybe that'd be the case. But I would like that, though. Let's see. James D. Mets game already postponed. No. Is that right? That can't be right. I could see them suspended. Hold on. No, it shows the schedule now, and I checked the weather just a little while ago. All the rain should be gone. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the sun's going to come out around 5 o'clock. 80 degrees and cloudy right now. So, I don't know. I don't know what that's right here as I'm looking on the website. Yeah, show 110. And if that's the case where maybe they have the tarp on to keep the field dry as much as possible. Thank you, Everyday Mets. Absolutely. Clay Holmes versus Peralta. Yeah, that's a big start for Holmes. I'm sorry. I know he's been good. I can't get on him. And Holmes is a guy that he's going to pitch 5, maybe gets into the 6th inning, but hopefully he doesn't pull a 3 2/3 and gives up 5 runs and walks 4 guys. Ugh, that'd be terrible. Guess food pitch popped up. Oh, all right. So, yeah, no problem there, James. I appreciate it. Now, with all that being said, so right, we touched on the Yankees and how they've just been a surprise as far as teams crawling up in the division, and the Mets, how much more do I need to say? Now, here's the bad part. You may have a collision course here. Now, the Mets still have 3 games to play between now and Friday, and the Yankees have 2 more games between now and Friday. So anything can happen, anything can change, whatever. But despite, if the Mets miraculously win 2 out of 3, or dare I even say sweep the Brewers, and if the Yankees, after losing the first 2 games, even win the next 2 games, despite the fact that the pitching matchups are not in their favor, guess what? Who plays against one another this coming Friday and into the weekend? You got it. Round 2. And the pitching matchups do not, and I underline, do not favor the Mets. Friday, you have Marcus Stroman. Yes, that guy. Remember him? He's finally coming back after all of his early season injuries. So he's going to toe the rubber at Citi Field there on Friday. And the Mets, unfortunately, no, you're not going to see Clay Holmes, obviously. And you're not going to see Kodai Senga come off the IL, or Dave Peterson for that matter. The pitching matchup there for your Friday night game, or Friday afternoon, because it's a 3-10 game, is, yes, you guessed it, Mr. Heartburn himself. And if I said Blackburn was pitching today, it's actually Friday. It's Holmes pitching today. So, right. I think James brought that up. It's Holmes versus Peralta. I thought it was Blackburn. I had it mixed up because I had Yankees on the brain. And when I think about the upcoming series and who they're going to pitch, it is, not a very pretty sight, to say the least. Because then in your Saturday game, you're going to have Carlos Rodon, who knows, against the Mets, he actually hasn't pitched too bad in a Yankee uniform. So, yes, it could go left for Rodon or it could go right for him. And hopefully it goes in either one of those directions, because the Mets starter for Saturday at 4:10 is none other than Frankie Montas. Yes, Frankie Montas. Remember him? Who did not pitch well Sunday in Pittsburgh, but Sunday maybe a little bit better or may not be better. Max Fried, who pitched yesterday, will be on the slab there Sunday. And right now, because of the doubleheader today, it is undecided at who the Mets starter is going to be, which, quite frankly, could be rather scary. But flip side of that, it could be promising, because for whatever the reason, and this is almost going back to even the Jeter, Bernie Williams days in the mid to late 90s, even into the 2000s, that when the Yankees see a pitcher that they're not familiar with, they do not fare well against them. I don't know. They don't have a scouting report, or they don't have any video. Who knows? But maybe whomever it is that they bring up, and whomever that the Mets starter will be, could have success. And I say could, underline. So your Subway Series with two teams that are scuffling, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, and even fumbling to get to the 4th of July. Who knows what is going to transpire here over these next couple of days leading into that series on Friday, where, I hate to say it, as a Met fan, and I've said this time after time after time, thankfully not last year notwithstanding, as they just embarrassed the Yankees, but there goes that word. As long as the Mets don't get embarrassed, as it was with the previous series, the Mets lost 6-2, the 4-run second inning, which doomed them in the Friday night game. Soto's return to the Bronx. Saturday, they got the 9th inning sac fly from Francisco Lindor, and the strikeout of Aaron Judge there by Edwin Diaz to get the 3-2 victory in the middle game. And then the Sunday night game, it was 2-2. All right, fine. But then it all went in the toilet, punctuated by Cody Bellinger's grand slam in the 8th inning. I believe it was in the 7th inning, where the Yankees won 8-2. So, all right. Obviously, they didn't bode well. They didn't get embarrassed. They didn't lose 10-1 or get bombed right out of the gate. But with these pitching matchups, you just hold your breath. Paul Blackburn, oh, my God. Frankie Montas, oh, you got to be kidding. Sunday undecided. So that's what I'm looking at. Unless the Met bats are going to wake up, and hopefully they do against Rodon, and most definitely against Stroman, because the best crack that they're going to have here over the weekend is the Friday game. And listen, if they get 2 out of 3, I'd actually be shocked. I wouldn't even be surprised. I'd be shocked. And I hope that they get 2 out of 3. I don't care if they win 1-0 or 15-14. I don't care. So I'll recap it all on Monday's podcast, and I'll probably have a little bit of a preview tomorrow. And let's see what's going to happen here after today, because I may even be more furious. That's why you can't miss out on those podcasts. Apple, Spotify, of course, here on YouTube at J Reels. So I don't even know what to think going into the series. And again, if you're a Met fan, you just don't want to get embarrassed. It's in your ballpark, and you just only hope and pray that the Mets get a win and they don't get pounded. That Judge doesn't hit 5 home runs over the weekend, and Carlos Rodon doesn't go 7 innings with one run, 3 hit ball over 7 innings and 13 strikeouts. So that's what I got there. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, people. Is there anything else? Please chime in. I see a couple of comments. I'll get to right now. You're going to game Saturday. Yeah, let's go, damn it. How about it? Yeah, Rodon, please. And then D-Rel's Fried got blown up yesterday. Yeah, they do. They got to capitalize. That's the thing. Fried, and not a lot of people have said this, and I've said this before on my podcast, and I'll say this on my live stream. Maybe people will get a chuckle out of this. Fried is a very good pitcher. Now, he's had his moments where he's been on the shelf, including last year. He had that strained elbow. But to me, he's a rich man's Cole Hamels. He throws harder than Cole Hamels ever did, the old Philly hurler, if you remember from back in the day. Almost the same motion, etc. And the Mets pounded Cole Hamels in the past. And I'm not trying to say that just because they pounded Cole Hamels, that they're going to pound Max Fried. And Fried has had success against the Mets, but the Mets have had good outings against them. So, yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they see Max Fried and going to be shaking in their boots. A lot of the people in that lineup has faced him. So, again, it's not as if Max Fried, despite the fact that he's had a very good year, he's probably going to be elected into the All-Star game, considering that his manager is there for the American League. So, and he has a 2.13 ERA. So, right, I would not be shocked if he's on the All-Star team. But again, despite his good year, he is hittable. So, hopefully the Pete Alonsos, the Juan Sotos, and everybody else in that lineup who's faced him will have some decent success, enough to maybe even scratch out a win. I mean, is that out of the realm of possibility? I think not. And the same can be said there on Saturday for Carlos Rodon, too. So, let's go Mets. All right. I'm going to turn my attention here a little bit. I want to get into this topic. Yesterday was the period, really Monday, because you got a lot of news and info trickling in the day before the free agent period had begun. And I'll get to that comment that just came up in a second. Before I get to Damian Lillard, right after I get to Damian Lillard, excuse me, it's a little hot in here. I just have the fan on. I don't have the AC on. I don't want to have the AC blowing into the microphone. Well, this microphone. I have a microphone up on my camera too, but I'm using this one. So Lillard gets waived by the Bucks. Was it a shock? In some parts, I'm going to give you a little clue here as to where my first critique video, which I'm going to, in all likelihood, put it up on the 4th of July. Why not? Fireworks, boom, bang. I'll go into the 4th of July with a bang. Yeah, I had seen a video where I was just appalled. And it's a short video. It's only one of those YouTube shorts, which is good. So you'll get to digest it in about 3-4 minutes tops with my assessment and breakdown of it. So there's your little hint come Friday, people. But this one particular creator came out and said, oh, what kind of loyalty are the Bucks showing Damian Lillard? He ruptures his Achilles. He gets thrown out like the trash, blah, blah, blah. And then in the next sentence, he says, oh, well, he is going to get his $113 million that he's owed. Yeah, nobody's going to cry for Damian Lillard. And I got no ifs, ands, buts, qualms about Lillard in the least. But what do you expect? This guy isn't going to play next year. He's what? I believe he's 35 years of age, if I'm not mistaken. And to come back from that injury, he's not 25 like Tyrese Halliburton or 28 like Jason Tatum. So 35. Kobe had his Achilles, I think it was 30, what was that, 2013? And what was Kobe at that time? He may have been even 35, if I'm not mistaken. 2011, I think it was. If it was 2011, he may have been 31, 32 at that time. So, yeah, I could see why they got rid of him. But the whole point of that video was just piling on the Bucks and then even saying about Kyrie Irving, how, Kyrie, the Mavericks just gave him an extension and he tore his ACL. So what do you got to say about that, Milwaukee Bucks? I think the Mavericks are a little bit different in this regard. Think about what happened with the Luka trade. Everybody in Dallas was ready to throw the ownership group, the GM, etc., overboard because they traded Luka away. And because the basketball gods, or maybe the basketball fix, they got the number 1 pick in Cooper Flag. And now it almost seemed like Luka was forgotten to the point where Kyrie, they gave him the extension. And yes, it's an ACL, not an Achilles. Not to say an ACL is a boo-boo on the wrist, but at the same time, an ACL is a lot more recoverable and a lot quicker than an Achilles injury. So for her to come out and say, and it's a woman who actually came out with this comment, for her to come out to say, oh, well, Kyrie, he got his money, and look at the love that the Mavericks showed. Boy, the Bucks, no love, no loyalty, boo-hoo on you. Well, of course they're going to get Kyrie the money. What do you think? Hey, we traded away Luka Doncic, so the whole fan base is against us, but now we got a second line to where we get the number 1 pick, we draft Cooper Flag, so let's keep this good juju going. We got to sign Kyrie on the dotted line. He's been a good soldier ever since he's been in Dallas, and obviously he's given everything he's got. And it's not to say Damian Lillard hasn't to Milwaukee, but there's a little bit more of a connection with Kyrie in Dallas than Damian in Milwaukee. So, and therefore they're able to spread out the 5 years or the $113 million over 5 years. And for her to say, oh, Kyrie, that was a terrible example, and wait till you get that video because she's going to get it. That's all I got to say. And if you have watched that video, if you on YouTube, or maybe if you follow her, should I even give you the name? Should I tell you right now? Should I? No, I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to. But I want to surprise you. I want you to wait and see till when it comes out. But if you do your homework and if you follow certain circles as far as content creators and things of that nature, maybe you're aware of who I'm talking about. And if you are, you can put it up in the room, and that's that. What's this? Lights and firecrackers and a bat rack. Yes, James, I'm with you. And still getting paid. Yep. Still getting paid. So Lillard, listen, I'm sure it sucked to know that they let him go, but he has no connection to Milwaukee. I mean, he really doesn't. And he's going to get paid, and nobody's going to shed a tear for him. So, yes, we understand that sports with these owners and the loyalty, and I get it, whatever. But it goes both ways because how many players, especially in the NBA, broker their own deals? The player empowerment movement. How, I know I still have 2 years left on my deal, but I want out, i.e. James Harden. There's case in point and many others out there. So, yeah, I get it that it may look bad for ownership to just throw them out like the trash, but players do it all the time. So, all right, everyday Mets. No, did she say? I'm not talking about her. Did she say something? I'm curious. I have not listened to her. I know there's a lot of people have been piling on her for some reason. And I've actually tried to get her on my podcast too. So maybe I should extend another olive branch toward her to see if I could get her on. And don't get started with Giannis. Yeah, that's not happening. In fact, there was a content creator today. And you know what? Maybe I'll shout his name out. Maybe I'll even put it up here. You ready for this? Because I can share my screen. This is going to sicken the Knicks fan big time. There was a content creator. No, it was on Instagram. Now that I think about it. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up. What does he go by? Hold on. We're going to have some fun with this. This content creator, you ready for this, people? He came out and said, oh, there it was right there. I just had it. Where, let me mute my, whatchamacallit. I know I'm doing this live, but bear with me for a second. So this one guy came out to say, I think it was the show, the Shot Clock. And it's on Instagram, by the way. Nope, that's not it. I got to find his content, and then I'll post it here because I figured I'd rather do this first. He came out with LeBron James. Ready for this? How this is the perfect time for the Knicks to trade for LeBron James because of what was said, I believe. I don't know if it was in a statement or I think it was Rich Paul, his agent, came out and said that, yes, LeBron's going to opt in. He wants to see what the Lakers are going to do. And I'm paraphrasing here, but came out and stated that we're going to see what direction they're going to go. And we want to thank Jeannie Buss, thank everybody. But we want to see what's best for LeBron here as we try to pursue a championship this upcoming year. And that's not to say the Lakers aren't going to make moves. You know, Rob Pelinka is going to do something. But this guy, I don't know, came out of left field. And let me see if I can pull up his content real quick. And you know what? It's a little creative. I'll give him that. But at the same time, I said to myself, if this happens, there's no way in hell. No, that's not it. There's no way in hell. He could talk about it all he wants. Oh, here it is. I think this is it. LeBron may be leaving LA. No, that's not it. Hold on. Yeah, because he had like the Knick logo. Here it is. I got it right here. So let me see if I can find this. And I'm going to share it with you guys. So I appreciate your patience here because this is going to be fun. And that's what I love about doing these lives sometime. So get out of here. Look, as I'm knocking everything over, this is what happens. I do this for you people. My apologies. So if I just got you a little dizzy there. Oh, all right. Instagram shot clock. Yeah, so this guy is a young kid, and I get it. Now, is this clickbaity? Maybe a little clickbaity. Let's just put it that way. But for him to come out and say this, it's creative, but can you really take this seriously? I mean, watch this happen, right? In the grand scheme of things. Why isn't this coming up? Come on. All right. 1, 2. I appreciate you dealing with the dead silence. All right. Of course, this isn't coming up here. Let me go to this other page. But this is what I mean about shouting out these people who put up this type of content, whether it's creative, clever, whatever it may be. All right. But still, I don't want to go as far as saying this particular piece of content is irresponsible, but this is what bothers me about content creators in this day and age, because they think that because they edit something, and that's the one thing I know I got to get my game on when it comes to the slick editing and things of that nature, because I know it's going to catch people's eyes. And I know that. But to me, it's all about what you say and how it comes across and how you package it. And the packaging in this day and age, as we all know, it is imperative. But if you're just going to say something that's out of left field or just to get clicks, no. I've watched enough sports in my life that I'm not going to be baited by someone that's going to come out and just say something just to say it and then have 8,000 views or 8 million views and all these other things that are going to come with that type of content. I am not doing it. No way. Why isn't this coming up? So for those out there that have listened to me, that have watched me, I don't play that. And that's the last thing that I want to do. Oh, that's what it was. All right. That's the last thing I want to do, because I want to be real with you guys. I don't want it to be a situation where I'm going to pull a fast one over you. Is that it? All right. Yeah. So I'm going to be true to the game. I'm going to be 100% transparent, as I've always been. And there's no way that I'm going to try to pull a fast one or an okie doke on you guys and gals to think that, oh, here I am trying to be cute by getting my point across or trying to say something that is going to, generate the clicks, generate the buzz and all that, but has no substance to it, that it's all style, that it's all for that. All right, here we go. Ready? So let me look this up. Here's search the shot clock. Yeah, you may have seen it by now if you've gone to your phone. I know you're probably paying attention to me, and I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who's jumped on board, whether you're still on with me or not. You know that. All right. Let me just scroll down. I've got his page here. I just got to get the content. All right, now let me just share. Let me know if you can hear this. Present. Slides. No. Screen. There we go. I know. Don't show these tips again. Requesting a bypass, blah, blah, blah. All right. All right, here we go, people. Get ready for this.
To the Knicks isn't crazy anymore. LeBron just did something he never does. Opt into the final year of his contract, which in turn makes him easier to trade. And the Knicks would be the obvious team for these reasons. Number one, after he opted in, Rich Paul said this, quote, LeBron wants to compete for a championship, and he knows the Lakers are building for the future. And if he wants to compete for a championship, you obviously want to be in the East, away from OKC. The Knicks, as of right now, are the favorites in the conference to get to the finals, and that's without LeBron. Number two. Number three.
Now
we know LeBron loves to have input on his teams, and with the Knicks, he gets to help pick his next coach. And who's one of the finalists for the Knicks job? The very first coach that got LeBron to the finals. Number four, we know he's always wanted to make the Garden his home. The Knicks were just never good enough to really consider. Now they are. Number five, At this stage of his career, he needs a guy that can shoulder the usage load to help him make it through a full season and playoffs. And finally, and here's why he'd choose the Knicks over the Cavs, who would be the other logical choice. He's already finished the job in Cleveland. He's already given them their ring. If he wins a ring in New York, in the Mecca, their first title in over 50 years, he's not only a savior in NYC, but he'd finally get the one thing he wants the most. The one reason he'd leave LA in the first place. The final dagger that would put him ahead of MJ in the GOAT debate. And on top of that, for a Knicks fan, unlike for KD, you don't need to give up Cat. You don't need to give up OG. Get a third team in on this to get another good rotation player or two, and you're good to go. So, Leon, it's time. Make the call. The stage is set. LeBron to the Knicks isn't crazy anymore.
Oh, there you go. Your thoughts? What do you think? Now, I got to admit, it was clever. And the trade proposal, I don't know if that's something that he found or what he had, was Miles Bridges, Josh Hart, and Mitchell Robinson. And I don't know, there's got to be maybe some other money involved for LeBron for the 1 year. And you also got to remember, too, Bronny James is going to have to come with him, because there's no way he's going to leave and then Bronny James isn't going to come back, where we all know Bronny's going to get, 2 minutes of playing time, if that. Now, based on what he said, there are some things that make sense. But does he want Mike Brown as a coach? I think not. I understand that's a long time, water under the bridge. And I understand that also he was an assistant. I believe he was an assistant on that 2020 championship team where Jason Kidd was on board, et cetera. That was before he went to Sacramento. So maybe, who knows? Maybe it's a situation where the Knicks now, obviously they're going to have to, whether they're going to use those players in a trade, that remains to be seen. But the thing is that clip that he showed him in New York at the restaurant said, oh, yeah, I'm liking New York, or whatever it was. I didn't know he didn't say that. Or I'm looking at you, New York. I mean, come on. He could have been saying that about anything. So I'm not going to take any stock into that, nor the coach for that matter, even if it is Mike Brown. And even though he did make an interesting point, the East right now, you would think it favors the Knicks based on the injuries that we've talked about here over the last few weeks in the East. And it's not a real powerhouse. And how Rich Paul, as I said earlier, wants his client to compete for a championship, blah, 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 so on and so forth. We know the West is loaded. Obviously, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got his bag. Did you see that contract? 4 years, $285 million. It averages a little over $71 million a year. And think about that. $71 million. So by the time you get to 2030 or 31, Cooper Flagg will probably make $100 million a year. It's got to come to that, people. But here it is. This type of content. And this is just a brief example. Oh, that's a good one, Bio. I'll get to that in a second. This is a brief example of content creators who are going to do whatever it takes to get the likes, to get the subscribers, etc. And even though I'll give it up, I thought that was very good, but it's a little far-fetched because LeBron's not getting traded. And there's no, I mean, I cannot see. I'd have to not only read it, but I have to watch on TV. I have to everything. And unless Shams is going to break the story like he did with the Luka trade, then I'll believe it. Anything else, I could care less. So, and then what did James? Chris Carlin on ESPN has been pushing LeBron to the Knicks. Yeah, I can't see that happening. I can't. I'm sorry. I do not. And yeah, and I know before James, Giannis to the Knicks, that's not happening either. Again, no way. Oh, is that right? In that restaurant clip, he said his wife wants to retire. Yeah, I didn't see that whole clip. I have to go back and check that out. Good one, James D. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know if that may have been a recent clip because I think when LeBron was here a couple of weeks ago for that Fan Fest by Fanatics, I know he was all over the place. They spotted at Lucali, the pizzeria spot, which is also very popular in the city, or maybe in Brooklyn. I don't even know. One of those, it's either Manhattan or Brooklyn. And it may have been during that time, who knows? But yeah, I'm just not going to put any stock into that. I don't know how you guys and gals feel, whether or not LeBron should come or is coming to New York, or would you want him on the team, considering it's now, 15 years too late if you go back to the time right before the decision. which the anniversary of that, I believe, is this coming Tuesday. I think it was July 8th, 2010. So think about how time flies. And he's still in the league, which is even mind-boggling. But what you just saw there is going to be what lies ahead as far as some of the content that I'm going to put out as far as critiquing. And you're going to get me like in that picture-in-picture. So there'll be some fun with that when it comes to taking the podcast, the channel to another level by critiquing. And again, it's not trolling. It's just not liking what I see. And yeah, that should be fun. Looking forward to that. All right, now, everyday Mets. LeBron do not touch the Cavs. I don't know if he'd go back to Cleveland. I mean, they won 64 games. That's a team that is built, but guess who's going to have to go back the other way? The first person they're going to want is Evan Mobley. And I understand he signed an extension, et cetera, but the Cavs aren't going to do that. They'd be nuts if they were going to do that. So that's what I got with the NBA. Before I get to the Steelers, and I know, Bio, your comment, real quick, I have to bring this up only because they re-signed 3 of their players who won a Stanley Cup just, 2 weeks ago? And they are looking to three-peat as they bring back Sam Bennett, an 8-year deal, I believe was $64 million. Aaron Ekblad, who they signed on the dotted line, including Brad Marchand. And that was the one that was shocking from this regard. Do you know they gave Marchand a 6-year contract worth a little bit less than $30 million? But the crazy thing is, he's 37. He's going to play till he's 43? What is he, Jaromir Jagr all of a sudden? So I thought maybe a 3-year deal, play till he's 40, or a 2-year deal. No, they gave him 6 years. Very surprising. But I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again, and they're going to be tough. But 3 straight Cup appearances, back-to-back Cup finals, they're not going to repeat or three-peat next year. I don't think so. And it's easy for me to say that now, July 2nd, but, I mean, I can't see it. 4 straight trips to a Stanley Cup final, and something that hasn't been done in 41 years, which will be 42 going into next year. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. All right, now let me get to this Steeler trade. If you didn't see my commentary that I posted on YouTube, it's a almost 13-minute video, and I did it off the cuff. Just put the camera in front of me and let it rip. And to me, it was more of a situation where who the hell do these Pittsburgh Steelers think they are? Because this Steeler team, prior to Omar Khan taking over as the GM from Tom Donahoe all those years, the Steelers were not a team to dip into the free agent market. I'm talking about big-time free agents. They weren't in the market to trade players. Yeah, they were making an occasional trade here and there. Many years ago, Santonio Holmes, but he became a malcontent. Or even Antonio Brown, for that matter. You know, it's not as if they're going to do something that is either off the beaten path or something that was literally shocking, because nobody had this trade on their radar, where Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith goes to Pittsburgh and where Minkah Fitzpatrick goes to Miami. And it was interesting because toward the end of the season, Minkah Fitzpatrick seemed like he fell out of favor in the locker room, where there were reports about how, there were 10 guys on board, but there was one that wasn't listening. And a lot of people didn't know who that one person was until you got to the end of the season, and especially after that loss to the Ravens in the wild card game. And actually, he had an interception in that game. But for Fitzpatrick and a guy who's been an all-pro, been a good Steeler, for him to, I guess, mentally check out toward the end of that year and missing assignments and wanting to do his own thing and whatever it was, maybe that voice in the locker room, whether it be the coach or other players, it just fell on deaf ears for him. And I'm not going to say good riddance. I'm actually surprised. But this is a trade that you have to be ecstatic over. And not just because of Jalen Ramsey. I understand he's 30 years of age. He's been in the league a long time. He's a guy that hopefully you get some magic out of him and be anything close. I'm not expecting the all-pro receiver, the all-pro quarterback that he was from his days in Jacksonville, maybe early on in LA. But if he could be anything close to what he was. And I think this trade also is going to solidify that safety position because remember, the Steelers currently have Joey Porter Jr. and they also signed Darius Slay, formerly of the Eagles, to man the corners. So you may have a scenario where Jalen Ramsey could be your slot guy as well as a hybrid slot, even safety for the departed Fitzpatrick to go along with Deshaun Elliott. So this is a multi-dimensional trade, hoping that Ramsey's on board. Now, that's the big thing because you got to see whether or not he's going to say yes to that. And I would think he would, considering that he's late in his career. I'm sure he wants to preserve his body a little bit. So if he wants to play center field and try to get interception after interception, I'm sure he'd be like, yeah, where do I sign? We don't know that for sure, but hey, we'll have to wait and see on that. And then they get Jonnu Smith, who they have been flirting with even dating back to the draft, to bring in another tight end because they already have 3 tight ends on the roster, count them 4 at the present moment, with Connor Haywood, obviously at Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, the big tight end out of Georgia, who I like. And how can you not like Freiermuth? But Jonnu Smith, to me, is going to be more of a receiver. I'm not going to compare him to Shannon Sharp, but yeah, he's not, to me, in the prototypical tight end category where he's going to stay back to run block or even pass protect. He's a guy that's going to be out in the flat or out over the middle to catch that 3rd and 7 or to get that 3rd and 5, move the chains. That type of player is how I envision him being in this offense. So you have to like the trade in that regard. And then to hear these Steeler fans, and I'm going to get to bio. As a matter of fact, I'll segue to your comment right now. Whoop, I didn't want to do that. Hold on. And your comment is interesting. All right, so I'm going to leave that there because we'll touch on that because the Steeler fans have just been outraged in reference to T.J. Watt. Oh, well, they make these trades, but if they don't sign T.J. Watt, I'm sitting out for the year. Or if they don't sign T.J. Watt, I am banning myself from being a fan of this team, blah, blah. Are you guys off your rocker? Are you serious? I mean, what are we doing here? This Steeler team under Omar Khan, where prior to that, they made very little moves. And here they are. They're trying. Last year, they brought in a young quarterback in Justin Fields, and they brought in an aging quarterback in Russell Wilson to see if that would work. And obviously it didn't. Now, they did make the playoffs. They lost in the wild card round, as we know, and lost the last 5 games of the season, 4 in the regular and the 1 playoff game. But I'm sorry. This GM is trying to do whatever it takes. And listen, you can gripe about Aaron Rodgers all you want, but and I wanted Justin Fields to stay. I didn't want him to go. But he was the last guy standing. Who else are you going to get? Mason Rudolph is not going to be a guy that's going to lead you to the promised land, people. And if Rodgers stays upright with a young offensive line who hopefully they could gel and stay healthy throughout the course of the year, who knows? Maybe their ceiling could be 12-5. Will that win a division? It may have to be based on tiebreakers, but they could be in the running if they're 12-5. 10-7, they're going to be a 6 or 7 seed, as you know. And they still may end up being a 6 or 7 seed. But the point of the matter is that they're trying. And Ramsey, he's not 35 years old. To me, more of a reach is when they brought in Patrick Peterson, and no shade on him. But Peterson, who had been around the block and then some, Arizona, Minnesota, went to Pittsburgh, and in the 1 year, he played pretty good. But now they went a little bit younger in this choice to bring in Ramsey, and they brought in another offensive piece at tight end in Jonnu Smith, on top of Aaron Rodgers, on top of Darius Slay, on top of others, but where now people are going to look at DK Metcalf, how can you forget? But people are going to say, well, where's TJ Watt's money? I think when it's all said and done, the Steelers are going to get TJ Watt signed on the dotted line. Because now you're hearing multiple reports that maybe because of all these trades that they've made, DK, obviously this one here, that maybe they could try to get TJ Watt off the Steelers. All right, they could try to do that. I wonder what the package is coming back to Pittsburgh. But let's face it, and I love TJ Watt. How could you not? Tried and true Steeler, homegrown, etc. And I think they're going to work something out. If they bring Cam Hayward back, and Cam Hayward's 35, where TJ Watt is, 31, I believe? Or he's about to be 31. I think he's 31. So what? If he goes, he goes. Would I be sad? Yes. But if he's going to hold out, and remember, he's still under contract. He has one more year. But if he wants to pull a Le'Veon Bell, not to say it's going to be the same situation, but we saw how that turned out for him and his career. So, and TJ, I get it. Myles Garrett got $123 million, and how many guaranteed? And he's making $40 million a year. And TJ Watt wants that type of money. And does he deserve it? Yes. But remember, he's getting paid on past performance. Last year, good year for him. Wasn't the 17-18 sack year that he had. What did he end up with? 11 and a half? As a matter of fact, let me make sure. How many sacks? I should know this. Watt had last year. I know the Mets are coming on too. And don't worry, I will land this plane shortly for those who want to watch the Mets or maybe have it on in the background. All right. TJ Watt last year. Bingo. 11 and a half. And what did he have the year before? 19. And in the year before, he was hurt a lot. So he only had 5.5, then 22. Yeah, so he's going to get paid on past performance. And I understand, 11 and a half sacks, you're still going to take that. And he's still a game wrecker. But I think the Steelers will somehow, some way come to an agreement, and this will be all for naught. And that's all there is to it. So, but the Steelers fan is just crazy about, what are the Steelers doing? Bringing these old men on the team. It's an old folks home, so on and so forth. Oh, you know what? Then don't root for the Steelers. Those are the front-running Steelers fans, and when things are good, look at us, blah, blah, blah. And when things are bad or things seem to go in sideways, because think about this. If they didn't make these moves, those guys would be the first ones crying, how come we're not making any moves? Look, this team gets this. The Ravens, they pick up Jair Alexander. Oh, look what they did, blah, blah, blah. Well, look what the Steelers counter with. Would you rather have Jair Alexander, who's coming off of knee problems, or Jalen Ramsey? So that's the problem, Steeler fans, or those Steeler fans that are going to come out and bitch and moan about, we got old guys on the roster now. Oh, look at us. We're the oldest team in the league. Oh, why are we bringing in these old folks? Well, you'd rather not bring anybody then. You'd rather not do anything. And I get it. These guys aren't guaranteed, but they are a little bit better than what they were a couple days ago. I'm sorry. And you got to admire what Khan has done here. Because if you don't think so, then, root for the Chiefs then. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sick of Steeler fans with that nonsense. I mean, it's just, come on. Because the Steelers just stood pat and not did it. You could be a Cowboy fan. I mean, think about this. The Cowboys, who I understand everybody hates, ad nauseum, etc. But what were their big splashes this offseason? Can you even name them? And I think they have one. Off the top of my head, I can't even remember who their big splash was. Oh, George Pickens? Of course, because the Steelers were involved in that. So, all right, fine. They got him by trade. So, we could talk about other teams that have not been able to, that say they're going to be selectively aggressive, which I think the Cowboys said. And all right, they got Pickens, and they still got to work out a deal with Micah Parsons. And it's not as if they're any better this year than last, but you could be a Cowboy fan where you're still in that 7-10 to about 11-5, 11-6, 12-5 range. And we all know what happens with the Cowboys come postseason time. But stop bitching, moaning, and griping. These Steelers fans, oh man, I wish I could get them on this live right now to knock some sense into them. Ugh. Oh, look at this. Got some good news. Wait, I got some other comments here. Hold on a second. I see the score. I know for that. I appreciate you guys posting the score here because obviously I'm not watching. All right, here we got Everyday Mets. Let's go back. Oh, wait, bio, my bad. Will TJ Watt get traded? Yeah, I think I answered that. Did I? If not, I don't think he will. Because I'm sure the Steelers will ask for the sun, moon, and stars. I understand he's going into his last year of his contract, should be a rental, quote unquote. But I'm sure they'll probably ask. Then I don't think they get a number 1 pick. They'll probably get a 2, the highest, maybe a 3 at best. But I think they'll probably get a 2. I don't think they get a 1. If he had 2 years left and they weren't going to resign him, they could definitely get a 1 for him. But 2, 31 years of age, I think that'd be appropriate. And if they end up with a 3, all right. Anything less than that, come on. Now, let's get to these comments. Everyday Mets. I think I found a reason the Mets keep losing. In the 5 mascot races. Interesting. And of course, they do that because that's to tweak the Bronx and the Yankees. So yeah, maybe they do that now, especially before the Subway Series. Because watch them do it Friday, the Subway Series, right? And that would be the Mets would do that though. The Mets who brought in the hot tour girl last year. Remember to throw out the first pitch? Friday on the 4th of July will be the first time that the Giraffe wins that race. And therefore, the Yankees will sweep the Mets and probably win in the fashion that the Pirates did this past weekend. Oh, would that not be typical? All right, James D. Ooh, that'd be dangerous. And you know what? That'd be interesting, too, because we know that the family ties between the Rooneys and the Maras. Yeah, that's for 2. I don't think they get over 1. But listen, why not? Get him away from the AFC. And I don't think the Steelers would trade him to an AFC team. Could you imagine, like, if he goes to – that would be something, right? Like the Chiefs come knocking, hey, we'll give you whatever. And then, of course, next thing you know, they're going to see him down the road. No. Trade him to the NFC if they're going to do that. Omar Khan, which I don't know if they would, but we'll see. Here we go. Everyday Mets. 1-0. And then here we go. Leadoff homer. Oh, my God. Unbelievable. And then look at this. Sources tell ESPN. You know what I saw the other day, which I thought was fascinating, and I want to get your take on this, guys, real quick. Somebody put this out there, and this wasn't like a Shams or anything like that, but I forgot who it was. Somebody brought up the idea of Dawn Staley being the next Knick head coach. And you know what I said to that? That would be fantastic. I would endorse that. Now, I know the fan base would just be outraged, a majority of it. But guess what? Dawn Staley, she knows basketball. She can coach. And I understand she's coaching multi-millionaires that are going to make well more than what she would make. But you mean to tell me that she wouldn't get the best out of those guys? I think she would. If Pat Summitt was, God rest her soul, if she was around and she became the Knick coach, you mean to tell me that Pat Summitt wouldn't be able to coach men? I mean, who are we kidding here? So that may be an unpopular opinion to a lot of people. Jay Reels, come on, no way. Dawn Staley? Listen, Mike Brown? Now, I get it. He's got a track record. He's got a resume. Understood. But now you're going by retreads. And Mike Brown, I get it. Sacramento, you got a raw deal there. So, and if that's the case, are you happy with that, Knick fans? I don't know. I mean, I want to hear you guys before I sign off. James D, you'd love that. Bring him Dawn. Yeah, why not? Exactly. The last comment. And right, that's not a thing where you're trying to, ooh, let's be different. No, ooh, it's a lightning rod. Like, no. This makes total sense. Or let's say if it was Becky Hammond that was going to get the job. Would Knick fans be upset? Would Knick fans be like, oh, why would they do that? Oh, it's a terrible hire. No. Why not? If anybody's qualified to be an NBA head coach, it's Becky Hammond, who's been on the sideline in San Antonio, as we know, or Dawn Staley. And not to try to make this like turn it around or whatever, but you mean to tell me, granted, I understand college to pros, and there's a lot of college coaches that don't want to go pro, especially that have made their mark in the college game. But I would think Gino Auriemma could coach men's players. Why not? Obviously, with his decorated resume, track record, etc. So, yeah, I mean, to me, I don't want to hear it. If anybody's going to come out and just poo-poo that and be like, nah, there's no way. I don't know. Then either you're not paying attention or maybe I'm off my rocker. I don't know. But look at that. Everyday Mets, huh? Now, is that, let me see. Anything reported here? Yeah, you got it. You're on top of it, my man. Everyday Mets, I appreciate you. Yeah, there it is. Expected to be hired. Now, here's the terrible part about this. And it's not even Mike Brown's fault or whatever. And I was going to talk about Coco Gauff. I don't know if you want me to talk about it. That was going to be my last thing before I sign off. And I do want to talk about that. Let me make sure I say this with some thought here. I don't know how the fan base is going to feel. I'm sure they're going to be like, should have kept Thibodeau, or Mike Brown. And I'm sure there's going to be LeBron chatter on top of that. But here's what's going to be even more of a disaster regarding this. And again, it's not Mike Brown's fault. What's going to happen is that there's going to be a premeditated, well thought out, and designed press conference for where Leon Rose, William Wesley, I don't know if James Dolan will be there. I mean, you would think. But this press conference is going to be so orchestrated to a T to where nobody is going to ask, or they're going to ask a hard question, but they're going to, I'm sure, randomly select these questions, because I would think that the writers here in New York, the first thing they're going to ask is, like, what is it that you see in Mike Brown that you did not see in Tom Thibodeau? I mean, that's question number one. And I'm not even a reporter, because if you're going to bring in, let's say, and not that this would have ever happened, but if you're going to bring in Tyronn Lue, or we understand if it was going to be the Frank Vogels or the Mike Budenholzers or guys like that, because they already won a championship. So, of course, that's what the question is. Mike Brown, granted, he was on the staff in 2020, I believe, with the Lakers. But as a head coach, he has not won a title. All right, he took him in 2007. That was more, I think, based on LeBron's young superhuman efforts at the time than the team itself, because that was definitely the worst NBA Finals representative in the history of the sport, that 2007 Cavs team. But yeah, that'd be my first question. What do you see in Mike Brown you don't see in Tom Thibodeau? Mike Brown hasn't won an NBA final. All right, and you can say, well, Mike Brown took his team to an NBA final. It's 18 years ago. I mean, it wasn't as if it was 3-4 years ago. And then you're going to have to bring up the Sacramento stuff, because you know the New York press, hey, what happened in Sacramento? Why'd you get fired? Blah, blah. And you think the Knicks front office is going to want to deal with that? Absolutely not. I said this weeks ago, and I maybe even said it here on the live stream, and I'll say it one more time. Wherever Mark Jackson is, I'm sure he's probably shaking his head. And maybe he's not shaking his head because he wasn't even interviewed. Because if he was interviewed, I'm sure at that point he'd be shaking his head because, hey, I thought I sold myself. But granted that Jackson would have been a little bit more of a PR, I'm not going to go as far as saying disaster, but it would have been let's just call it a PR challenge, to say the least. And no, we're not talking about personal record. But Mike Brown, by bringing in Mike Brown, it's a scenario where you could have a million different questions thrown at him where he's going to have his head spinning. And I'm sure it's going to be in a controlled environment. I'm sure they're probably going to handpick these questions, because if you're the Knicks and their PR department, they should just say, you know what? We'll give the press 30 minutes, ask whatever you want, but then after that, that's it. And get it over with. So if that means the question that I brought up, if that's asked, or if it's a scenario where, Mike, this team has not won a championship in 52 years, and they were this close last year. What are you going to do as a head coach to bring them over the top, provided that the team who they signed Jordan Clarkson, all right, no, and he's decent. And he's a good role player. He's a good guy to come off the bench. He won his sixth man of the year, and that's what the Knicks need. They need guys and length in their bench so they don't have to worry about playing 6.5 to 7 guys, especially when you get to the postseason. But yeah, what is it that you're going to bring? What is it that you're going to do? What happened in Sacramento? What happened in other stops along the way? The Knicks fan wants to know this, because it's not, these press conferences aren't just for the guys who get paid to ask these questions. The reason why they're asking these questions are for the fans. A fan base that is not starving. A fan base that is famished, literally on the side of the road. And they actually had a few crumbs here in this postseason where, all right, they weren't satiated, but oh, wow, this is what it tastes like? Great. We had fans hanging off of lampposts and on top of signs on 7th Avenue after they won a second-round playoff series. So what are you going to do to take this team not only to the finals, but to win the whole damn thing? And I don't know if Leon Rose or William Wesley or James Dolan are ready for a firestorm of questions that are going to be a lot worse than what I just brought up, that's going to probably be in a 10 to 15-minute environment, not a half hour, not 45 minutes. Why don't you just rip the Band-Aid off and just do the whole thing so you don't have to worry about these questions down the road, because you know that these questions are going to crop up at some point. But the Knicks, who screw up a winning lottery ticket, they're not going to do that. It's going to be a scenario where they're going to try to, all right, today is the day we bring in Mike Brown. He is the blah, 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 whatever coach of the New York Knicks, as far as what is he, the 20th, the 30th, I don't even know off the top of my head. And now let's introduce Mike Brown. And then he's going to have a statement, and he's probably going to answer 4 or 5 questions. And then, all right, that's going to wrap up our conference. Because that's what the Knicks are going to do. 2 words, people: damage control. But the only damage that they're doing is a disservice to their fan base by not only firing Tom Thibodeau, but bringing in Mike Brown. And again, not a knock. Because if you're going to bring a guy that's going to do better than Tom Thibodeau, it better be a guy that has won something. And they're just lucky that Greg Popovich wasn't around, because I'm sure they would have chased him. Because let me tell you something. The Micah, what was his name? The kid from Minnesota, that was a guy that was no way near going to get this job. And Mike Brown is the parachute. I don't know what else to tell you. And right now, do I like the hire on a whole? I do not. But that's more an indictment on the Knicks than it is Mike Brown. Because I'm sure Mike Brown is a good coach, and I'm sure he's learned from his time in Cleveland. Obviously, Sacramento, we don't know what happened there. And who knows if we're ever going to find out, especially that his next stop here is going to be Broadway. But, I don't know. All right, I'm going to just wrap up with this, people. And I appreciate you hanging in with me throughout this time. The Wimbledon taking place, the 3rd major Grand Slam, and you had 2 major upsets. Jessica Pegula out first round, but Coco Gauff was the bigger one. She just won a French Open literally a little over 4 weeks ago, and even she said that mentally she was overwhelmed. And listen, she has the right to take bows, to catch all of her bouquets, considering that she upset Aryna Sabalenka in that French Open final. And right, there wasn't a quick turnaround. 4 weeks. It wasn't as if the Australian in January, and then you had 3.5 months to get yourself ready. And she attributed to that. Now, that could sound like a cop-out. That could sound like an excuse. And to a certain extent it is. But you know what? I'll give it up to her this time. I'm not going to be an apologist for her altogether because, right, she knew that the French Open was 4 weeks away. She knew that there was going to be a lot of attention and a lot of people sending her direct messages, texting her, famous people, popular people, etc. And that, hey, yeah, let me take my bows, but now I got to turn it around because I have a Wimbledon that I got to prepare myself. And that's not to say she didn't do that, but obviously to a certain extent she did not, because she gets ousted in the second round and in straight sets. Very surprising. And hopefully this will be a big learning lesson for her to think that, yes, she could certainly get all the accolades and all of the glaring comments, compliments, etc., that I'm sure made her feel great, and the relief of winning another major and doing it on the clay court, etc. But yeah, and she even said that she thought she played well. I guess she's not going to try to kill her own game, but when you get beaten in straight sets, and I think it was, 6-3, 6-2, it wasn't as if you lost 7-6 in a tiebreak in the second set, and the first set was 6-4. So, listen, I'm not trying to get on Coco Gauff in that regard. Like I said, I'll give her a little bit of a pass this time. But, yeah, you got to know that after winning a major 4 weeks later, that maybe the Today's Show and a lot of these other places where you were on TV and showing off the new metal and showing off the new hardware, that, wait a minute, I got to get back to work. Or wait a second, you know what, this is taking a little bit longer. I only have 2 weeks to prepare. Now I have 10 days to prepare. Ooh, now it's a week away. Maybe it did catch up to her. But hopefully this will be a learning lesson for her moving forward, that she'll be aware when it comes to her preparation for the next event, and with the timetable in between not being too long, especially coming up after a championship. Again, hopefully that stays in a memory bank for future reference. If and when she does win another major tournament, especially at Roland Garros. Uh-oh. Mendoza with the bad lineup again. Yeah, let me pull this up. What was it, a 4-0, guys? No, I'm kidding. All right, yes. So why is it showing me that? Their lineup today, Mets, Lindor, Marte, Soto, Alonso. No. Listen, what are you going to do? Yeah, I don't like – see, I like Marte at 2 because I think back to the 2022 year when he batted second and he was great that year. I put Vientos at 2. I put him back up there, man. Vientos hit so well at 2 toward the end of the year. 3 pretty much the whole year, but toward the end of the year in the postseason, we know he had a killer postseason. I put him back up there. Get his confidence going. Get him back to where he should be because that's a guy that's 220. That's not – and listen, I'm not trying to make Mark Vientos out to be Albert Pujols, but, yeah, I would like to see him bat up in the lineup a little higher than 6. But let's see. Oh, yeah, so the one who hit the home run was the guy who hit the home run in Milwaukee in the wild card game. Sal Frelick. Yeah, I remember that. 2-0. And then, of course, the heroics by Mr. Alonso, and you know the rest. All right, well, that'll do it, my good people. I appreciate you hanging out with me an hour and a half. This is a good show, good live stream, long one for that matter. Thank you so much for stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day. Oh, there's a couple of comments here. I forgot. Marte back in the 2-hole. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Vince, was at 2, so you feel me, huh, D-Rails? Yeah. Put him back up there. Let him rake. Let him get those fat pitches that he got last year with Lindor ahead of him and Alonso behind him. And now he has Soto behind him. So imagine if that would be the case. That 220 will probably go up to 260 in a matter of a month, maybe even 270. 50 points, that could be high this time of year, but you catch my drift. Thank you all who stopped by. Goes without saying. Any last thoughts in the chat room before I'll start saying my goodbyes now, but if you have any last thoughts, I'll post them up. You know it. Critique videos, as you know, coming soon, as early as tomorrow, or excuse me, as early as Friday. I'm in the middle of working on that. Editing is a little tricky, so bear with me on that. Try to put it up, maybe not first thing in the morning, but sometime maybe before the game there on Friday, Mets Yankees at 3:15 or 3:10, I should say. As I mentioned before, please subscribe and share with your family, friends, foes, friend of me. Share with the other sports fan in your life. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also got lifestyle content coming up as well as all the sports. You know, I got you covered when it comes to all that. Next live stream, as you see there, the scroll on the bottom. Latest edition of the podcast coming at you tomorrow, probably around high noon, maybe a little bit after that. Thanks to all for stopping by live or even the replay. Leave a comment, as I mentioned at the very top. And, yeah, what more can I say? I enjoy these live streams. I enjoy getting together with you guys and gals here in the room, chatting it up. It's a fun time. Listen, what more can I tell you? Just supremely grateful, honored, and a privilege to do this as a content creator, independent, trying to navigate and blaze a path in this trail to be in the ranks with some of the others that are out there. The little engine that could one day will be on that express track and be the engine that did. So just keep that in mind. But before I say my final goodbyes, yes, let's go Mets. Enjoy your 4-2, James D. Rells. You're the man. Thank you. I really appreciate all of you for stopping by, sharing your time, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the world of sports, because whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. It's in the blood, it's in the DNA, as I like to say, talking sports since birth with nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury with my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, feelings on anything and everything that happens on worldly, diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are. The J Reels live stream always comes live, direct, correct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx, the South Beach, the South Center, the South Pacific, and all points beyond. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. And until next time on the J Reels live stream, and of course the podcast tomorrow, on the flip, baby.